Is worth everything. That it's unbelievable to see the smile on his face when he gets off that motorbike.
I'm very comfortable with the riding, somewhat excited, and I think the main thing is going to be interacting with the people that I have never seen anything like this. I'm looking forward to explaining to them, because I get asked a lot of odd questions about how we're doing it and what we're doing.
On the day, people witnessed something extraordinary at Red Star Raceway. A blind man did 4 laps on the track, non-stop.
I'd ride behind him, tell him what to do, tell him what's in front of him, whatever's in the way.
How exactly do you do that?
All right, so what we've got is, in the beginning it was a left and a right, and a slight left and a slight right, and these sentences became too long. Because we wanted quick reaction time. So what we did is we marked the track from left to right, from 1 to 10, 5 obviously being the middle. So the minute he drifts off to the left, I'll tell him 6. If he drifts off too much to the left, I'll tell him 7. And that's the angle of that. That would be what we used down the straights. And in the corners, I'll tell him that we're coming up to the corner 50 meters, 20 meters, and then he can start his angle. Obviously him knowing or me telling him which left or right turn it is, and he'll start an angle, and I'll tell him to tighten the angle, loosen the angle, and he'll keep it until we're out of the corner. And I'll say we're out of it and we're on the straights again. Back to the 4, 6. 6 and good. Good. We've got a wireless headset, so from my helmet to his. So exactly that. It's pretty much like a Bluetooth wireless headset.
So I go a lot more based on balance and I suppose vibration and those things, but our primary thing would be balance, because it's the same old thing with a bicycle or a motorbike. You can't steer at anything over about 17 km an hour. In other words, you don't actually turn the handlebars to the right to go right. You lean right, which means you're actually almost shifting or balancing your weight over. And I work a lot more based on that now. Not that I'm going all that fast, but I am hitting 40, 50 km an hour at times.
When he crossed the finish line, he went for another parade lap, and this time leading his motorcycle club.
Primary thing is awareness, making people aware of what is possible if you set your mind to it.
It is a lovely feeling, but more so to see the happiness in Jacob. I think that's the rewarding part for me. On a personal level, yes, it's nice. It's nice to be able to help. But I think the biggest reward is seeing Jacob smile.
It's an inspiration. I mean, we can look at ourselves and think we can do anything then, if you just put your mind to it.
The organizers say he will be submitted for consideration to Guinness World Records, and we hope that this ride will be acknowledged for the remarkable feat that it is.
If you apply blindness to yourself as a limit, then that's a choice that you make. The fact is that also I've met a lot of people that I never would have met. I've expanded a lot of my horizons in directions that I never would have even considered. I didn't know, a stupid example would be that even in a Windows XP PC, it had built-in narration, built in the software, in the operating system. So I've expanded my horizons a lot, and I've met a lot of people that amaze me that I never would have gotten to know in the past.
It's just gone 4 o'clock Central Africa time, live from SABC News studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. You're watching SA Today on the SABC News channel, independent and impartial. We're coming to you live from Johannesburg, as I said, and my name is Palisa Chubisi. Let us take a look at your headlines for this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa has delivered the keynote address at a 2-day gender-based violence and femicide summit, which began in Pretoria today. The Pretoria Magistrates Court has postponed the rape case of a 22-year-old Nicholas Nino to the 28th of November. This after it agreed to refer Nino for a psychiatric observation. The customary wife of the late Jabulani HP Tambo applies for an urgent interdict against funeral proceedings.
Our top story this hour takes us to New York, where the South Africa Tomorrow Investment Conference 2018 kicks off in New York City. And Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, this is his first trip to one of the financial capitals of the world since taking office as the Finance Minister. The conference is being held as a partnership between South African public and private sectors. Joining us now is our correspondent in New York, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Sherwin, thanks very much for joining us. And I see that this room is filling up and it's about to start. Fill us in. What is this gathering about and what do they hope to achieve?
Peter, you're absolutely right. We're just about underway here in New York at the sixth version of this South Africa Tomorrow Investment Conference, essentially a partnership between business in South Africa and the public sector. I've just laid my eyes on Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, and as you correctly point out, his first major international trip to one of the financial capitals of the world. And they tell us, Peter, that they want to maintain momentum out of the major investment conference where President Ramaphosa announced 290 billion rand, around $20 billion of the $100 billion he hopes to raise over the next 5 years. They want to maintain the momentum. Of course, coming also at a time when South Africa is facing a technical recession, 2 quarters of negative growth, and really wanting to take the momentum out of that conference in Johannesburg and continue the conversation, if you will, here in New York. You'll remember also, Peter, that just a few weeks ago, President Cyril Ramaphosa on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly spent one day essentially engaging business here in some very tough conversations. Some of the people in the room, Trevor Manuel, of course, one of the President's investment envoys, Jaco Marie, another investment envoy, and also the Deputy Chairperson of Standard Bank. Jabu Mabuza is here. Of course, he's the Chairperson of Eskom, but also the current Chairperson of Business Leadership South Africa. So we are going to start now with a plenary that will be led by Tito Mboweni. He will have a very frank discussion with business leaders gathered here about South Africa's policy framework. Later then he'll be followed by Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago. Lesetja Kganyago will talk about South Africa's monetary policy. I imagine some questions will come up about the independence of the Reserve Bank and whether this is a matter that will end up in court. And of course, the background as well will also be infused by conversations around the yet unfinished business in South Africa around land expropriation without compensation. You heard President Ramaphosa, Peter, in that address to the investment conference harp on the fact that South Africa will always respect property rights. Clearly, they've gotten some sort of message from business, and I imagine that is a conversation that will continue here as we get underway. Later in the day, of course, they will have breakaway sessions where there will be private discussions between the South African delegation and some of the investors that they are engaging with here. I'm told there are people from institutional investors that have been with South Africa since 1994. They will talk to corporate America, pension funds and large pension funds in the United States. Peter?
So, Sherwin, you said that likely to face some tough questions, land being one of them. But I suppose a lot of these people are seeking reassurances that, yes, there is a new order in South Africa and that this path that's being charted by President Ramaphosa and Tito Mboweni is one that they can build something on.
Absolutely, Peter. And of course, there's also some momentum coming out of the medium-term budget statement that was just delivered by the Finance Minister a couple of weeks ago. And of course, you will have noticed that the markets did not react quite as favorably, certainly as government and business in South Africa might have hoped. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, there are questions around land expropriation. There's also questions about whether South Africa is a good investment opportunity right now, given the challenges that we are facing in terms of the restructuring that we are seeing in South South Africa's state-owned enterprises, the restructuring that must happen in big companies like Eskom, the SABC that is facing a number of retrenchments like now. You saw that the finance and the leadership of Transnet has had to resign. So there are a great deal of questions. Also, Peter, as this government takes us to elections in next year, is the ANC going to maintain their majority? Is the policy framework that will be presented to business leaders here something that will be able to continue after the April elections next year? Is the hegemony of the African National Congress going to be challenged? So we're about to start, Peter. I'm going to step out of the way now. Let's listen to Tito Mboweni and some introductions before he gets on stage.
And unless we start in the next